Welcome, you guys, to the regular City Council meeting Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. Would you please all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Nichols.
Here.
Siebel.
Yes.
Osborne. Here. Smock.
Here.
Bergman.
Here.
Number 4, approval of the July 19th, 2022 agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 5, approval of the July 5th, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
And that would be a roll call?
Nichols.
Yes.
Siebel.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Smock.
Yes.
Bergman.
Yes.
Tonight we have Lisa Skubel, Carrie Dara, and Mr. Schaefer. They are with Grove Cedar Valley. And would you like to come up to the podium and talk about Grove Cedar Valley?
I think the learning experience is I don't need to get too close to the microphone, right? If I was listening.
That one I don't think is,
We don't have to worry.
it's
about
that
it.
one over there that's pretty amped up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Thank you for scheduling us in to your council meeting tonight. We certainly appreciate it. As Mayor mentioned, Carrie Dara is with us. She's our CEO of Grove Cedar Valley. And also joining us is Jim Schaefer. He's our Director of Investor Relations. So many entry points into Grove Cedar Valley, and that's just a few for the City Council there. I really enjoyed getting reacquainted with Mayor Bliska over the last several months and learned about Eagles Landing development thanks to a group of students who were enrolled in Don Bosco CAPS program this past spring and sought out Grove Cedar Valley with many questions and looking for assistance in how they can complete their project, but moreover how they as a student group can support the mayor and the city on this project as well. From our meeting last week with the mayor and Councilman Siebel and Chris Fischels, the opportunity for future development in Evansdale is quite exciting. The support Grove Cedar Valley can provide the city of Evansdale is more extensive than it has been previously when you were an investor member. What I'd like to do is present how Grove Cedar Valley's strategic plan intends to lead and collaborate on important initiatives to address these challenges we have in today's economy and why Evansdale partnership is important to both of us. For Grove Cedar Valley, this includes several areas: talent attraction, retention, and placemaking, services to our existing businesses to help their growth and innovation, as well as continuing to attract new businesses to the communities to support all taxing entities. We have seen firsthand this is not just the Metro City support and economic development, it's representative of the entire county. The surrounding cities and towns in Blackhawk County are important to our economy as they provide alternative places to live and work and can increase spendable income within their own community. There is a relationship amongst population, housing, and local economy, more so than there ever has in my time in economic development. If we don't have the workforce for our employers, the likelihood of businesses growing here become limited, and we risk the businesses growing elsewhere where there is people, housing, and economic vitality. There is also a direct interconnection between housing availability and population for growth of a city, county, or state. Population growth over the next decade will be everybody's business, public and private sector alike. There are certain areas Grove Cedar Valley can lead, but there is much collaboration that is needed countywide and with each city as well. Grove Cedar Valley's strategic plan was developed with input from public and private sector board members last fall. This is a 5-year strategic plan that lays out priority areas. One of them, workforce and talent, growing population through attraction and retention of our workforce. Placemaking and imaging, supporting the improvements of infrastructure and improving knowledge and image of the Cedar Valley communities as a place to live and work. Diversified economic base, supporting existing businesses, enhancement of innovation, entrepreneurship, and diversifying our existing business base by attracting new companies into the communities that we represent. And then lastly, it's more of an internal organizational structure. Grove City Valley wants to ensure the organization is sustainable, including making sure that we have the necessary staff to successfully implement the strategic plan over the next 5 years. We are here to seek collaboration with the City of Evansdale for the first three: workforce and talent, placemaking and image, and diversified economic base. In the packet that Carrie distributed, you'll see a summary of Grove Cedar Valley strategic plan for the next 5 years, and just published the 2022 annual report of the organization. That piece will give you a sense of Grove Cedar Valley's work over these last 12 months. I'll just touch on a few of them. Diversified economic base is supporting the business climate and vitality of the Cedar Valley communities to create quality jobs while increasing tax base. Grove Cedar Valley is proposing to act in partnership with the City of Evansdale for economic development related activities as requested by the mayor and city council, and that aligned with the strategic plan that you had, that was distributed. Second, we will work with city officials to identify existing businesses, to arrange visits to identify areas of economic and community development support that we can provide to those existing businesses in Evansdale. Whether it's the city themselves or Grove Cedar Valley, we want to be a connector of all the resources to make them continue to grow and expand or retain themselves in the city of Evansdale. These visits also establish new or enhance existing relationships between the business and cities. Over 90% of the community's growth comes from the existing businesses. That hasn't changed before the pandemic, and I think it's even a stronger relationship now, given the economic times we're in. GVCA will continue to represent and market to targeted industries. The Cedar Valley area is a new location for expanding companies. We have already forwarded information to a lead that we had earlier a couple months ago, and represented Eagles Landing as a possible location in the Cedar Valley for industrial users' consideration. And we worked with the mayor and Chris officials on getting the necessary information for that lead, which is still active. And I said this to the mayor when we first brought the lead over to you, is that we would not have known about this park otherwise if it hadn't been for that, those students reaching out. And I'm glad they did, because it gives us another option to give to this company that they would have had otherwise. They'll make the informed decision, but the more options we have for the company, the more likelihood we can be successful in attracting them to the area. The 2022 annual report that you have gives you a sense of the external marketing we're already doing. We've been doing some virtual prospecting with companies last 2 years because of the pandemic and can't meet in person, and have been inviting staff from the cities of Waterloo and Cedar Falls to participate in the calls so they can get a sense of the conversation and what these companies are looking for when they are considering new locations. We make that same offer for someone from the city to also sit on these virtual meetings as well. In the day, former Evansdale Mayor John Martis would travel with me to call on companies in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Workforce, talent, and image and placemaking. I broke them out, but I combined them together because they're so interrelated. That is, supporting employment opportunities in Cedar Valley with collateral material to recruit and retain workforce, related marketing to that end, and advocacy for connecting the quality of life amenities to create a greater placemaking space. Placemaking, if you're not familiar with it, by definition, refers to a collaborative process by which we can shape our public realm to maximize shared value. Now, when I first mentioned we would look at the issues and areas of economic and community development that are important to you, placemaking is one of those discussions we can have. Carrie Dara is already working with the cities of Waterloo and Cedar Falls along that realm, and believe that there's a spot for Evansdale to be included in that. So we can have more of that discussion as a sit down over the next 12 months to look at see what that looks like. We will support the city of Evansdale with social and digital media marketing for an online version of Livability magazine and livethevalley.com if you're not familiar with it, as a place to live and work. Evansdale will have a community write-up on the Livability publication, both in print magazine and the online version, to promote the city of good neighbors. as I understand,
Yeah,
that's how you
that's
describe
our
it.
tagline.
That's your tagline. And we want to make sure it's in those publications and described that way. And we'll work with you on the content as well, because we want it to be your voice. The Brand Livability is a national quality of place and relocation website that reaches over 1 million viewers and has high shareable content. We know if we were going to make this change with the magazine, Quality of Life magazine, we needed to do it up big, and we saw the model the state of Iowa was using and knew we needed to be in along with them, so we can get a better generation of interest and shares and engagement by doing that instead of doing it on our own. We'll get about 2,500 copies of this, so we'll make sure that you get enough, though, so you can distribute it as you feel you need to and to whom you need to. The good thing about this is it's an annual publication. The one we did before, we did every other year. So with that, having said that, there'll be more opportunities to showcase Evansdale in next year's publication, and we'll want to work with you on that. Not just an area about the community, but also content as well, more pictures. Rose Cedar Valley, the publication, I should also mention, we should be able to get it in hand by the end of the calendar year. So we're pleased with that and the way that's going. We want to support, provide services to the existing business, and that includes print material when we're visiting with them on their needs and challenges. We want to provide them with print material for recruitment and retention of the workforce and connecting those employers to resources based on their needs. We already do it with some companies, and we want to be more intentional about doing that with Evansdale existing businesses. Rose Cedar Valley supports the attraction of workforce by hosting twice annually a newcomer event that is free and friendly. The intent is to introduce individuals with others already living here, to be able to better connect individuals to connect with the area and hopefully stay here. We will share this event information with Evansdale employers and also ask the city to consider sharing it on city media platforms too. We plan to bring back Summer Social. This is an event for interns or students to showcase the amenities that are offered outside of their workplace. The purpose of this is if those students get offered a job after graduation, the transition to say yes to the employer here in the area is a lot easier because they're familiar with quality of life. Again, we will share that information with Evansdale employers if they have a need and have interns throughout the summer, and then we'll ask the city to consider sharing on your media platforms as well. As an added transaction benefit for the city will be able to post available city positions on Rose Cedar Valley's job board at no cost. For example, one of our member cities, I looked in the last 12 months, they posted 30 jobs and received 1,180 total job views during that same period.
Wow.
So it really is an added benefit, and because you are an investor, there's no cost to you as part of that investment. The city will have a member page as well on our website. One city's page on our website, I also looked at that too. Their page received 173 views and appeared 120 times in category search results on Rose Cedar Valley's website, and that's over the last 12 months as well. And then the city of Evansdale mayor or designate will have a chance at least once a year to give a verbal city update at one of Rose Cedar Valley's signature event, Good Morning Cedar Valley Breakfast. This is a chance for the city to report out on all the good happenings in the city, both with business development and quality of life. The attendance on average is 20 business and community leaders. So it's quite an audience if you've ever been to those events. We see this as an opportunity to be more collaborative with Evansdale, to promote as a place to live and work while supporting the economic vitality. Thank you for the opportunity to present, and we would be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Council, do you have any questions for Lisa this evening?
None this time.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
You said from us, how much does our membership with Rose Cedar Valley cost?
I think that's up to discussion and up to the mayor and city council of what they would like to, investment level they would like to come in at. So we are definitely open to that. but what we offered here and what I presented isn't based on a certain number. I'm not answering your question, but that is up to the city, mayor and city council. What we do want to do is whatever that amount is, we want to over-deliver on services so that money, public money is well spent. We strongly believe in that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Number 7 on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda is posted.
Second.
All in favor, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of resolution calendar. All items under the resolution calendar will be enacted as one unless there's a request by council to separate them.
Make a motion.
Second?
That'll be a roll call, please.
Nichols?
Yes.
Siebel?
Yes.
Osborne? Smock?
Yes.
Bergman.
Yes.
Okay, tonight we have a public hearing regarding the Michigan Lift Station Rehabilitation Project. I'll take a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing on this issue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Proof of publication on file, no public comments received.
We actually have Alex and Austin with us tonight from McClure Engineering. They've been very involved in this project, and I wanted them to come here tonight to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Mayor. I guess, do you want to start with just the public hearing element of this and then kind of get into?
Yes.
9, 10? Okay.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the lift station project and
Okay.
kind of, yeah, what was proposed. So, if there are none.
Yeah, if there are no questions or comments, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 6625 is approving just the final plans, cost estimate for Michigan Lift Station Rehabilitation Project. Is a formality as part of the public hearing. I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 6625 for final plans and cost estimates for the Michigan Lift Station.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Nichols?
Yes.
Siebel?
Yes.
Osborne?
Yes.
Smock?
Yes.
Bergman.
Yes.
So, the next on the agenda is request to postpone the acceptance of the bid for the Michigan Lift Station Rehabilitation Project. This is where Alex really comes in
Yeah.
because he's going to give you a bunch of options
Yeah.
in order for you to make a great decision.
Yeah, so we took bids last Wednesday morning on the Michigan Avenue lift station project. Our estimate of cost was $475,000. We received one bid from Denver Underground. The low bid, the only bid, was $594,000, which is about 20% above the engineer's estimate. When we took the bids, we were disappointed to only have received one bid and have it be over our estimate. Unfortunately, that's been pretty common over the last couple of years in this industry. So while it was disappointing, I don't know that it was overly surprising. When we took bids, we talked internally with staff about some options moving forward, and didn't feel great about only receiving one bid, being that it was over estimate. When we got back to the office, we went ahead and called some of the other contractors that had pulled plans for the project. There were about 8 prime contractors that were on the plan holders list, and tried to get their feedback as to why they didn't submit bids. And of the contractors that we were able to get in touch with, there were 3 or 4 of them, and they almost all had the same feedback. And the feedback was that given their current workload and the relative small size of the project, it just wasn't a project that was overly interesting to them. Additionally, there's some equipment that has really long lead times on this project. currently, like, standby generators are almost a year out, like 48 weeks to get a standby generator. And then electrical control panels are also like 30 weeks out. So even if a contractor was to, were to accept a bid or get the bid, realistically, the project isn't getting built until early next year because of the lead time associated with some of these items. So I think that made contractors a little bit leery, just because it's not a project that they can immediately start turning dirt on and getting built here this summer. So taking that feedback in, we put together kind of 3 options for potentially moving forward. There's no need for you guys to take any action tonight, but you're welcome to, I think, if you want. However, the bids are good for about 60 days. So we're about a week out from when the bid opening was. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but you have all of next month to make up your mind if you need to push things out. So no pressure to take any action tonight. But the 3 options that we put together are as follows, and I'll kind of summarize the options and some of the pros and cons associated with them. If you guys have any questions, just stop me and I'm happy to answer. So the first option is you can reject the bid and rebid the project later. Initially, this seemed kind of like the obvious option, receiving 1 bid and it was overestimate. By rejecting the bid and rebidding later, you could potentially attract more bidders. In theory, more bidders means more competition and maybe better pricing, but that's definitely not a guarantee. One of the things that is a phenomenon in this industry is that once contractors see a number, price anchoring is a real phenomenon. So we've got a number on the street for $594,000. There is really no guarantee a future bid will be a lower cost with that number publicized. Typically, when you rebid a project, you want to make significant changes to the plans and specs, so that contractors that may not have bid or that bid over the estimate will come back with something that's maybe a little more competitive. In this particular project, there are not really many significant ways to reduce scope from the project without with getting the same results that you want. So that price anchoring is a real thing that we're concerned about. Additionally, if you rebid the project with the long lead time items on the generator, the electrical control panels, you're looking at the project dragging out into probably the summer or the fall of next year for completion. When we started the project, several months ago, it was a pretty immediate need. So that is putting it out there over a year from now is a pretty significant drawback to that option. But that is an option that you have. The second option we came up with is somewhat related to the first one. You can reject the bid and then package this project with the wastewater plant project that we're currently under design on. So in this particular circumstance, it's possible that you could maybe see some economies of scale by combining the pump station project with the bigger project that's going on at the wastewater plant. That said, the wastewater plant project is not scheduled to bid probably for the next 4 to 6 months and has probably a 2-year construction window rather than the short window with this project. So you're potentially looking at the pump station not being completed possibly for 2 years or more, depending on how the contractor would sequence their bid. When you package it with the wastewater plant project, if you don't make significant scope modifications, which there aren't really many to make, you still have that price anchoring effect. So while you may get economies of scale, delaying the bid by 4 to 6 months, and with that price anchoring impact, the way inflation has been going in the construction industry, you may not save any money by doing that. Additionally, I think the city's plan was to fund this project through some of the ARPA funds that they had available. ARPA has some advantages over other funding sources, namely SRF, which is being used for the wastewater plant project. So the project is currently not subject to Davis-Bacon prevailing wages, the American Iron and Steel requirements, or the recently implemented Build America, Buy American policy, BABA, as it's otherwise known. All 3 of those items could come into play if we rebid the project and are likely to increase the cost rather than decrease them.
Alex, are you sure that they're not subject to the Davis-Bacon?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep, as long as you use the funding that we've talked about.
okay.
The wastewater plant, on the other hand, is, because that's being funded through the SRF program. So that's the second option. Similar pros and cons as the first option, maybe with the longer schedule being the biggest difference. And then the third option that we initially wrote off, but maybe it warmed down a little bit, is going ahead and accepting the bid that you did receive. The pros to this option is that, well, you can build it as quickly as possible because you've got a bid on the table. The bid is from a good qualified contractor that is willing to do the work and would move forward as quickly as you can. From our discussions with the contractor, we feel that the number they gave is pretty reasonable given all factors and given some of the project-specific considerations with this one. There's certain items that are unique to this project that are challenging for a contractor to put a number to it. And then in addition, we feel that there are some small opportunities to evaluate cost savings with this contractor if you were to move forward. If you go ahead and reject the bid and rebid later, it's no guarantee that you may see some of those savings. So those are really your three options. You can reject and rebid later. You can reject and package it with the wastewater plant project, or you can accept the bid as is and move forward. So kind of really up to you guys how you'd like to proceed. But yeah, happy to answer any questions you might have.
Who was the contractor again for the bid?
Yeah, Denver Construction. Or sorry, I said Denver Construction. Denver Underground and Grading. Yeah. And they're obviously out of Denver, so pretty local.
So did you say that if it was to go forward, that you thought Denver Underground might be susceptible to maybe some price savings? Is that what I kind of heard you say? And
yeah, I don't want to guarantee any of that, but they're a good qualified contractor. They're ready to do the work, and we feel there may be some options to, at least bring the number down a little bit. It's not going to come down to 475, I can tell you that, but I do feel good that the 594 number you have is likely not going to exceed that.
What would you say is the greatest risk right now to them that's seeing that 20% increase? They have their fill of jobs for the year, so there's no need?
Yeah, so every contractor we talk to is super busy right now. You can look around, every general contractor is taking on more work than they can get done. We're seeing projects, completion schedules get extended. So, I don't know that Denver Underground is full up, but they obviously bid the project, but I think they were waffling on whether they're actually going to bid ahead of time. Specific risks with this project involve bypass pumping. In order to implement the improvements that we propose, the contractor has to bypass pump from the existing lift station around the piping so that we can reconfigure the valve vault. And anytime you get in one of those bypass pumping situations, if something goes wrong when that's happening, that's entirely on the contractor's risk. So there's a lot of risk in that particular piece of the work. And additionally, when you're looking at lead times that are 30 weeks or 48 weeks for some of that electrical equipment, they're putting a number at something that is not going to happen for a year. Inflation in the general economy is like 9% right now. Construction cost inflation is higher than that. So they're putting a number at something that they're not actually going to do until next year. So their risk is kind of in that waiting.
And going down that same avenue.
Yep.
The risk, and I totally understand, the risk is they're bidding a project that they can't touch for another year, basically.
Yep.
Yeah, what are my costs gonna be, what are my status at? So yeah, they're gonna bid it high to make sure they protect their bottom line, I totally understand that.
Yep.
Is there an option for us to procure those items that are out too far, so that we take on that scheduling risk for them,
Yeah.
and then have them rebid it closer to where now we have the product in hand or have a set date and we
Yeah.
know a little closer inflation?
Yep.
Again, it could get worse, inflation could continue to skyrocket and
Yeah.
it goes up, but is that even an option?
Yeah, so you could look at procuring maybe the pumps independently. There is a little bit of challenge of that because the size of that package is going to be subject to, at a minimum, the competitive quote threshold and possibly even the public bidding threshold, depending on the value. I think it's likely it could actually have to be publicly bid. So you have to go through that process again, and it's
Costly.
yeah, it's costly. I don't think that you're necessarily going to get a better price by doing that.
And one of the main issues is the flight pumps, and they have, as Austin was explaining to me earlier, they're regional. So they, even though they have a dealer in Missouri, Iowa is its own regional district.
Yep. Yeah, so there's
So-
one supplier for that particular type of equipment, which is the same type of equipment that we're designing at the wastewater plant and some of your other lift stations too. And that's the reason we designed it that way, so that the city can standardize on a service provider.
Well, it's a big decision, and, you know, we can definitely table this.
Yeah, there's no obligation for
You
you guys
know,
to act tonight.
that'll give us, you know, a couple weeks to think about it, maybe ask some questions, you know, see if there's something that we can do to avoid the competitive bid,
Yep,
just because there isn't another source.
correct. Yeah, so, I mean, the only issue with like, with procuring the equipment separately is with those thresholds, then, you know, you're
Yes.
looking at going through the same process again. The contractor really is doing that already in their bid.
Right.
They're getting that package from the supplier. So if you go to the supplier directly, you know, maybe you save a little bit of the contractor's overhead markup, but maybe not.
Yeah, right.
So,
But you definitely have the competitive quote, which,
yeah.
no apples to apples there.
I guess my question would be just, if it was bid by you folks, if it was bid at a 475, why is it coming in so much higher? Is it because of what you said, of costs have been going up since you engineered, put the project together? I just found that kind of troubling last week when I listened to the process here at City Hall. I mean, that's quite a jump
It's,
for one small project.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, the last couple of years have not been very fun in this industry when you're putting together cost estimates. Like, you know, we've seen inflation in the overall economy, but construction cost inflation in 2021 was like 20%. It hasn't really shown any signs of easing. There's major labor shortages. We've got supply chain issues that have been a result of many things, including the pandemic, and now we're seeing supply chain issues because of the war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
There's a whole host of factors that have aligned in the wrong direction to stabilizing pricing in the construction industry. So, you know, we put our best estimate together. At the end of the day, it's an estimate. So while it's disappointing, you know, it is what it is. It's the market's price for the project.
I've seen it all over. I mean, it's very typical that they're all busy. And when you're all busy and you don't need the work,
Yep.
you can put whatever dollar amount you want on it. Because if you lose it, it's no skin off your back, you know, as the contractor. So they absolutely can put their margin into it.
And it's really more of, it's really they're pricing in their risk. Because if they have to take on the work and schedule it out, you know, they want to make sure that, you know, next year, if prices continue to escalate at 10%, that 10% is their overhead and profit. They could be underwater pretty quickly, you know,
Yep.
on a project like this, so.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
thank you for the
Any other
information.
questions?
Yeah.
If not, you know, I think you guys have our contact information, so if you want
Yes,
to get in
of
touch with
course.
us. If not, we'll plan to revisit this at your next meeting.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Austin.
Thanks, Steve.
So I'll take a request to postpone.
I'll make a request to postpone this project for the time being.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Request from city clerk to sign, even though she's not here tonight. She's actually in clerk school, if anyone was wondering. Request from city clerk tonight to sign an annual agreement with Computer Troubleshooters in the amount of $6,075 for IT services for City Hall and Public Works as budgeted for FY23.
I'll make that motion for that request from the city clerk.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Tonight, we have discussion, possible action regarding an amendment, a possible amendment to the Teamsters contract. Dan McDonald, a representative from Teamsters, had dropped off just a proposal just, considering the people in the union, considering this city as well, maybe making some proposed changes. It's gonna be like all around, it's gonna be like a proposed increase of like 6%. So like Tony Thompson had stated last Tuesday, it's happening in every department, in every city, in every county, especially in the state of Iowa, and I'm sure it's not just us. I'm sure it's happening all over the United States. I don't know. We've had like only a week to think about this. I was wondering if anyone had any questions or they wanted to bring up any thoughts or concerns.
My concern is that if we have a union, they negotiated a contract is a contract, and they should fulfill their contract. So
Yeah,
things
and
go up in any business, I don't care what business you're in, if things have gone up, but you gotta eat some of that stuff.
Yeah, and when that was done, that was in 2020, before everything just went topsy-turvy. I mean, you can get a job at McDonald's for $15 an hour. I bet you don't remember that in your time.
No, we got a nickel.
Yeah, exactly. I got
McDonald's wasn't near that
$2.65.
either.
My first part-time job. But yeah, it's nothing like,
It's, to me, a contract is a contract, this is what I'm getting at.
right.
And if your word is no good, then what good's a contract?
Well, and just back to that too, that same year, that same summer that we approved this Teamsters contract, we amended the IBEW wages only on that contract for it to continue through. So it is done. We've actually done it as a city.
And I guess I don't take it, Ron, as that, I absolutely understand the contract. I don't feel like they're trying to get out of the contract. I guess I don't feel they're coming at us saying, pay me more because the contract's not valid and this is it. It's more of the issue that's being approached, that they're not saying pay me more, it's just, hey, I'm gonna go elsewhere for multiple reasons. Pay happens to be one of them. It isn't that they're not living up to their contract, the union's not coming at us saying, you must do this or else.
No.
It's, we're facing an issue and we're trying to problem solve. The new contract is one of those potential
Well,
solutions.
who's coming at us then?
Would you not want to have a law enforcement presence here in the city?
We need law enforcement, but.
Sure.
You can stand
It's-
up.
To me, their word is no good then either. They signed this is a contract, it's a binding contract.
But I can quit my job tomorrow.
Well, you can quit.
Sure, I was an at-will state. I guess I don't take it in the negative by any means. I take it as we have an issue. COVID was an unknown thing, supply chain's an unknown thing, everything that's happening in this country was an unknown thing, and we're trying to navigate it just like any private or public entity. So
I run a business, I know what it's done.
And times got tough.
And, well, actually, it was the opposite of that for business. Most businesses made more money because the government influxed so much money that, but you couldn't get the product.
Go ahead,
So
Chief.
I wanted to try to readdress this a little bit because I kind of felt like after our last meeting that we had last week, that there was a little bit of almost a sentiment that this was an us versus you kind of situation. And it's really not. The union will abide by and satisfy that contract. They have no problem with that. They'll stick with it. The issue is you folks have a problem with attracting new applicants to the police department. It's not the police department's problem, and it's not the union's problem. You are obligated by law to provide law enforcement. And there's essentially one way to do
I
it.
understand that, but there's also a cap on cost too. I mean, you can
Okay,
only,
propose to me how you're going to maintain your law enforcement facility.
well, anybody can say, what are you gonna do with the street department, the sewer department, all
Given the
these?
circumstances we're in right now, how do you propose that you maintain that police department?
Well, I really don't have an answer other than, hey, if you can do better, go.
Okay,
That's
and that's what's gonna happen.
No, 'cause
And you have an obligation by law to provide law enforcement.
yeah, but at a cost.
Yeah,
What I'm getting, you signed a contract,
I didn't, the union did.
the union did, but, yeah, you weren't on the union part, but they signed a contract.
Yep, and they will
So
satisfy
in
that.
other words, their word's no good.
No, they will satisfy that. They will fulfill that 3-year contract.
Yep.
They are not coming to you saying, hey, we want out of this contract.
No, this was just a suggestion.
They are not coming to you saying, let us out of this contract, let's renegotiate this. What they're saying is, we identify that you have a problem with attracting applicants. How are you going to fix it? Because you're gonna lose your police department.
Well, if it's money, so what's 6 months from now, the same thing, well, we can make more money here.
I understand that, but you still have to attract people to come into that department, don't you?
Yes, if they're interested.
And how do you plan to do that?
Number one, they gotta be interested in that service. If you're not interested in that service,
I
if you're in
grant you
it for
that.
the money, then,
I grant you that.
you know,
Aside from that, how are you going to entice people to come work for the police department?
it isn't the money. I wouldn't, if I was looking for money,
How
I
do you
wouldn't-
entice people to come work for you?
they enjoy the work.
They do it out of the goodness of their heart,
Yeah.
and they like making countertops?
You know,
Okay, that's good for you, I guess.
I
I'm
pay
telling you,
them,
that's not how it
I
works.
pay
here.
them right, but they don't come to me after of course, I don't have a union to deal with, but my employees been with me, some of them 20-some years.
Yeah, and I assume that they're happy working for you.
You know, either that or they wouldn't be there.
Right, they're happy working for you, and they probably make a decent wage to put food on their table, right?
But I have never had them come to me and ask for a raise.
And we're not coming to you asking for a raise either. That was a proposal
It
to
was-
try to get this conversation started, because we recognize there's a problem.
Yes.
The only thing is, you still get back to the thing, they signed a contract,
Yep.
the union, and they are part of that contract.
Yep.
They signed a contract, in other words, their word is no good.
Okay, Ron, let's just say for sake of argument, we do nothing. Your police department's gonna go away.
I agree with you there, but then you shouldn't, well, if I had employees like that, I wouldn't keep them. Just either
Employees
pay-
like what?
Either pay me more money or I'm leaving.
That's not what we're saying.
What are you saying?
I mean, people are certainly gonna look for where they can make more money. Isn't that reasonable?
It's reasonable, but it's not
Okay, but
always
they're not
probable.
they're not coming to you saying, pay me more or I will leave. What we're saying is, there's a problem, we need to retain and attract employees for this department, or they will leave.
My question is too, what about the street department? They gonna be said, well, hell, we're gonna ask for a raise too, or we're gonna leave.
Yeah, this problem exists across a lot of industries. The question right now that we're focusing on, that has a problem right now, is the police department. I would like you to explain to me how we're going to fix this problem.
I don't know if they're not able to stand up for what the contract they signed.
They will.
Well, then what's the problem?
What's the problem? We got people that are gonna go to other agencies where they'll
Yeah,
make more
so
money.
you got the problem there. They're not willing to stand up for what they signed.
The issue is with the union is going to abide by their contract, that you don't have to open it, you don't have to do anything with it. They will stick with that contract until it expires.
They would, but the personnel that
These
backed it.
people are not held captive. They can
No.
go work wherever they like,
No, that's true.
but the contract will remain.
But they also signed a contract for a certain amount of money.
Like I said, you can stick with that.
Well, that's what I intend to stick with.
And when we lose officers, and we're down to 4 officers and cannot maintain a 24/7 service, how are you going to fix that?
No, I suppose we'll have to fix that when it happens.
You'll pay it in overtime.
Well, let's not get there.
You'll pay it in overtime. Your citizens will be left at risk.
I've been an employer probably for 50 or 60 years.
You have contracts with the Waterloo school systems for $34,000 you'll lose, because we'll have to pull that officer out of that school because of the shortage. We have an obligation to Elk Run for $50,000 to provide them police service. You'll lose that. That's $85,000 right there. If that's worth it to you.
This is just my point of view. This is.
I understand that.
Yeah, I would appreciate some other feedback from other counselors.
I have a question, Mike. I'm totally in support of the police department. But my question is, are you willing to give and take? If we say nothing, these proposals, and we don't say, well, I looked on this sheet, I spent a lot of time looking at this, not in a negative way. I looked at the overtime ratio and I figured that was kind of accounted because of less employees and having to work more hours to cover the streets. Is that right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
imagine that's where that's.
So my question, this is just talk. Are you receptive to your contract to go to 5 8-hour days instead of 4 10s?
I've already implemented that.
Oh, you have?
Yep, we're starting the end of this month, 8-hour shifts.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. Was one thing I was going to ask you.
We don't have a choice.
Well, I didn't know if you did.
Well, what I'm telling you is that Sergeant's gonna be gone, and we don't have the staff to maintain the 4 10-hour shifts that we normally have. We are gonna go to 8-hour shifts at the end of this month because that's what we have to do.
And my other question, just looking at resolutions, Mike, is I know Randy was said he was gonna stay a year to help out the product, the service, and then it was a few months, and now I've heard it's September. Is Randy willing, because of this situation with his police department as well as yours, to stay on a little bit so it's not quite as short staffed? I mean, that's just options I'm asking.
Well, I don't think this is probably the time or the place to be totally frank, because I can't speak for Sergeant Weber, but I can tell you, he's really not happy with a lot of your proposals.
What proposals have I made?
I'm not gonna just get into it here.
Mike, to give Councilman Stevel an answer to the question, would it be fair to say?
I don't
Sergeant
think that's
Weber's
gonna happen.
Probably, yeah.
I don't think
but
that's
no.
gonna happen.
Okay. That answer your question, Steve?
That's all I wanted to
The
hear.
question, the question here, you guys have 2 questions that need to be answered. Well, I suppose we could say 1. How do we get new people to apply for this police department? That's your problem, and it's up to you to fix it. Okay?
Thank you, Chief. I really want you to consider this in the next couple weeks. I would like if you'd reach out to me, talk amongst yourselves, please not more than 2, as that is considered illegal, but we're gonna have a real situation. And it's not just the police department, it's the whole city. It's, you know, people are being offered wages higher and more benefits than what we're offering. And we've consistently been the low man on the totem pole for quite some time. Even when we were looking for a city clerk, you guys were quite aware what the city clerks in the area were making. So, you know, you have to give this consideration. I think that we should work faster on this than not. But ultimately, the decision's up to you.
What you're gonna have to do is inform the public. It isn't us. The public's gonna be on us when taxes go sky high, and so what are you gonna do then? They're gonna vote you out of office.
I guess if I have to preface that of, you can either have someone show up when you dial 911 and pay a little
Well,
more
that's
taxes.
that's a
or you
if.
don't.
I
It's
mean,
not an
that-
if.
No,
If
that's
we
what
have
it
to
is.
raise
That's exactly
taxes
what it
for
is.
this cause, that's a one-to-one.
I mean, you can
aspect
always,
to me.
I don't care what you're talking about, you can always put something in there that's, sure, something may happen, something may not. It's the
But
best.
I also feel it should be our job to look at it as best we can to figure out if there's some
We
place
still
we
got the
don't
tax,
have
we
to
still
spend
got the
money.
taxpayers to contend with.
Yeah, and that's where I feel that is the last resort that we have to move to raising taxes. I hope we can find a place to absorb this cost for this year.
Did I see right that this year, at the end of the fiscal year,
Mhm.
that the police department came in under budget by 30,000?
That is correct. Yep,
So, I mean,
that's right.
that tells me right there that, I mean, we might have a little room to work with.
Yeah.
I do feel like it's important at this point that we find a way
Yeah.
to have someone, or to attract police officers, but then I
Yeah.
also find it's important to retain some of them. And I'm talking about not just the police officers, but the staff, and the street department would have to be next, but I do think that it is important that we try to look at that for the police and for probably the street department, but then we're gonna have to look at ways to scale back on maybe stuff like, I don't know, boat ramps or bike trails or something, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there,
Yeah.
because we're gonna have to, I mean, I think that right now the most important is the police and then the street. We need to be able to maintain our stuff maintenance, and we need to be able to have the police here too. So if they did go under budget, last year,
Yes?
then we might be able to, I don't know, maybe we can make something work that way. I've got to throw some more figures out there, but,
Yeah.
we
We can amend the budget and pull that money from reserves without without increasing the taxes.
Now,
Absolutely.
I know that the kind of the rough figures that we're looking at, a spreadsheet that was provided, the proposed changes, I think the rough amount was gonna be around 49,000 for an increase, including overtime. So we're looking at about roughly $50,000 increase for just this year alone. Maybe something that we can think about is, if possible, we could do it in two, like, so some a little this year, some next year, I don't know, but that's some of the things that I have been pondering. Maybe, and then I would also like to, if we do this increase, I would also like to, see if Elk Run's contract can go up by that same
Like me,
amount.
I'm not against them getting a raise, don't get me wrong, I'm not, but we budgeted so much money. They signed a contract for so much money.
Yeah.
We can't go back to the taxpayer and say, well, we gotta pick up another few $1,000s to cover wages.
Yeah, well, and I think that because they came under budget, we could use that money for this year, and then maybe, I don't know how this works, so I'm just
No.
like throwing this out, but if we came under budget by 35,000 last year, the police department did, maybe we can use some of that money to help with, like phase 1 and phase 2 or whatever, and then, that wouldn't increase the taxes this year, but we do need to make a conscious effort because, like you said, next year, we're gonna have to try to figure that into the budget as well, and maybe there's some things that we can scale back that will allow us to be able to do that, but we're gonna have to go without some things like, like normal, if you budget something in your household, you have to go without something. I don't know what it might be, maybe we all could figure out that.
I've signed hundreds of contracts in my life and I've never changed a nickel on any of them.
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
you're the
and
spit
it's,
handshake guy, right?
And I've got, maybe if they're not making enough money, maybe they should go someplace to make more money, I would.
Well, I mean,
We're
I
having
do,
difficulty, Ron. We're having difficulty.
I know it,
Getting
you have difficulty
someone
in all
hired,
businesses. You got difficulty in all businesses.
We've spent over $1,000 advertising on Indeed, and we've advertised on Iowa League of Cities. We've advertised, of course, on our website, social media. I know you had it on your Facebook page as well. We got 3 applicants. We made a job offer to one of them, and she declined it. So we're like, you could say, well, go ahead, better yourself, leave, or what have you. How are we gonna get people to replace those people? That's what we're
That's up to you.
struggling with.
That's up to you.
No, it's not, it's up to you.
We make the final
It's up
decision.
to each
but
one of
everyone-
you on the council. That's what the residents of the city hired you to do. The residents of this city are getting pretty damn disappointed if they don't have a police department.
I keep hearing talk about the wages for the officer, and I know it's hard to kind of get away from that. That's not the issue. Granted, they're gonna probably benefit from this, but that's not the issue. The issue is what's the dollar amount that it takes to get new applicants through our door? It's not how much these people want.
Yep.
No, I understand that.
I don't think you do.
Well, I run a business and I've run a successful business for 50 or 60 some
I
years.
grant you that.
And so I ought to know something about business.
Oh, absolutely.
It's,
The issue is not how much
I'm
they
not,
want.
I'm not against anybody trying to get more money. I'd like to make more money too.
They're not trying to get more money.
That's not the issue, Ron.
They're not trying to get more money. They have a contract that they will honor.
Well, then what's the problem?
My point is yeah, they're probably gonna benefit because of the situation. But the task at hand is how do we get new applicants through our door? Qualified applicants. That's the question you need to answer.
Are we low now or are we missing, how many?
We have one
We're
that
gonna
is
be-
retiring right now, and we have 2
One out
possible
on-
that are
we have
gonna
one
leave.
out on family leave that you folks granted. We have Sergeant Weber who's going to leave at the end of this month.
No.
When the school starts, we have an officer that's gonna go back into the school because of our obligation. So there's 3 officers essentially down on the streets.
So I guess an issue that I'm hearing more at hand is what does it take to get somebody to come in the door and work for the police department?
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily what the rate is per officer, but it does go hand in hand. I agree with that 100%, Ron. But what we gotta come up with is what is it gonna take to have somebody, when they come in, we give them enough of a package to start, that they're gonna work for us, rather than telling us, do we do exit interviews? If they tell us no, why did they tell us no? Was it somebody personally? Was it money?
We've talked to these people that are looking at other positions. Several of us have talked to them. I've talked to them, the chief has talked to them, Justin has talked to them.
Because I think we need to come up with a plan, what does it take?
You know, when you're
Put it-
24 years old, you're starting a family, you know?
Something I thought of is maybe a sign-on bonus, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, after, like, and I'm just throwing a figure out there, this doesn't have to be the figure, but, okay, hey, come to
Just-
Evansdale and work for us, we'll give you a $1,000 bonus to sign up, and 2,000 the next year, or whatever, you know, for, like, whatever. I don't know what that magic number is, but we should probably try to figure out some way to appease them and attract them. Our retirement package, Deanne said, is better than most of the cities, so that would be something that we can pitch, but when they're younger, they don't tend to care, and especially when the stock market is taking a dive, we don't have a lot of things there, but we can try to pitch that, we can try to pitch vacation, we can try to pitch benefits, we can, but we need to probably make it so that it's more attractive.
I'm not against anybody making more money, that's what we all work for, is money. But this is something that was not taxed for, it was under contract, they signed a contract for this amount of money, that's the part that gets
Yeah.
me.
Well, and I don't think it's more of, I don't even know if it's the contract, I think it's more of what can we do to attract somebody to come here and work.
Not only attract, but retain. I mean, we're bleeding officers. That's the bottom line. You know, they're going elsewhere, and like Chief Dean says, how do we propose to fix that?
So what I would like to see is just some people, like all of us, just think about it. Maybe we can talk amongst ourselves, see if we've got any good ideas, and then table this and come back to it.
I would also encourage you, especially those that have extra time on their hands, to call out to some other cities.
Do what?
Call out to some other
I
cities.
have. There's no way, I have checked with some, and I can check with more, but there's no way we can compete with Waterloo, Black Rock
And
County
I'm not-
Sheriff's Department.
I'm not
We have-
talking about those.
When
I'm
we look
talking
at
about-
Hudson, Jessup, Independence,
Yeah.
I don't think we're way low from them, because there need to be an adjustment. Yes, I think it could be very well true. But my main question I have tonight is, we're talking about how are we gonna bring people in? We gotta decide what we're looking on paper here for a one-year employee. Is that what it's gonna take? If they're gonna be happy with it? If we're gonna bump somebody in, I'm just throwing the thing out there. Let's say we up that more money for a new hire to come in. Then you have dedicated officers been here, where they're gonna be bumping right up pretty quick to what somebody's been here 5 years. So we gotta find a happy medium for both sides, what we can do to attract them. And if it's an incentive package, like she said, to get their insurance and everything right up front instead of wavering time and stuff, I'm willing for any of that, but we can say whatever we want tonight, but I don't know how people are gonna come in the door tomorrow and say, I wanna apply for a policeman. I guess unless we put something out there on the webpage of what we're offering for new hires for officers, and then see what that gets. And go along with this, what this is right now. The only question I have about this is, she's already brought up the money difference per year. So if we're bumping this up, this is a locked-in deal. So when their contract comes up, the only question I have is the union gonna understand that we went forward to try to retain officers, and instead of coming back with the normal, we're gonna want so much, 3%, 5%?
I can't speak for the union, but Stewart's here.
Well, what do you think, Jeremy? I mean, what would be the thought process? I'm just,
Ben,
Ben, I'm sorry.
I guess sitting here, that question to me that would be under negotiations when they open. There's no way I can sit here and promise you, yeah, we're not gonna, we'll just do a pay freeze on if you guys do something now, because I go back to what Chief Dean said, this is not a negotiation with the union, this is more of a negotiation with this crazy economy and trying to get somebody through that door. So I mean, it's impossible for me to sit here and promise anything from the union.
Well, I wasn't asking for a promise, but I'm looking at the dollars that the city would be committing, and when you look at the number of years moving forward, it's a very high dollar amount to retain officers. So my only thought is, we're willing to do that because we are concerned about the officers. So, and I know you can't make, it's just a thought I had, what would the union think a year or 2 years down the road when contract time's coming up and we've made this adjustment to give this increase because of conditions?
My guess is that would be brought up in negotiations.
That's all I want to hear.
And we would-
I guess that you may not view this as an answer, and I'm sure it's up for debate depending on which side you fall, but in my years being here, 22, 23 years, I've always felt that the union made good faith efforts in every proposal. They try to move the goalpost forward, or move the ball forward, you know, nobody likes to sit here and have negotiations for weeks on end. I think they do, and then there's been good faith on both sides. Well, I would expect the same.
That's the only question I feel we haven't answered tonight, Mayor, is what are we gonna have to attract new hires to come in? We've got this on print to study and decide, but what are we gonna say to a new hire that comes in to attract them to come in to work for the police? That's my only question right now.
And if there's anybody that has any good ideas, email us.
Yeah, bring them forward.
I would love to hear some current police officers.
I think sign-on bonuses is a good idea.
Kelly?
Kelly Parker, Marion Avenue. First, I want to thank our police department for taking care of us here in Evansdale. I always feel safe as a resident here. We live next to Waterloo, and there's a lot of crime happening, and that kind of spills over into our community. I was on the bike trail that day we had the flash storm with the funnel clouds, and I got attacked on the bike trail between the sewer plants in Evansdale, and I defended myself. I didn't get hurt, but I was really grateful when I called 911 when I got home, had my phone. It said, the officers are busy, we'll send someone out to file a report for you. And the red-haired lady cop came and she helped me. And I really want to ask the council to strongly consider making an attractive position. It should be more attractive than working at Target. It should be more attractive than working at, I mean, these people risk their lives. If we don't keep our police, people will move out of Evansdale to Hudson or to somewhere else. I will move if you do not keep enough people in this police department. So please, this is where our tax dollars should be spent, not on dog parks, not on other things. We need our police. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly.
That's all.
It'll be back on the next agenda. Please take your time. If you need to reach out, if there's anything I can get for you, I
What
can
is it
call
you're
around.
wanting What is it you're wanting in 2 weeks? Are you wanting we want a new hire package?
Well, we need to
got
move
this in black and
forward.
white. We don't really need to decipher this and argue about this. I mean, is that what you want to hear from us in the next 2 weeks?
I mean, we have a pay rate proposal right in front of us. I
It's
mean,
not for a new hire. We want to attract a new hire.
true.
Well, it is.
But we can also-
It's went up from $22.84 to $24.21.
And we all feel that's sufficient enough money, plus an incentive for hire. Mike?
I guess it depends on where you're at with an incentive. I feel like the wage is low, but,
Because Mike gave us that sheet last week of his opinion of where the wages should be. So we have Mike's schedule and we have the union's
I know
proposal.
that a Hudson officer, tell me what they proposed again for a new hire?
24, 21.
Okay, I know a Hudson officer starts off at 25 something, so a little bigger than Hudson. Now, I grant you that Hudson's growing, but we're trying to grow Evansdale as well.
I guess what I would like to see in 2 weeks is that we have something that we're ready to take action on, so that we've come together. If this is what it is, if it's a sign-on, we're ready to move forward in 2 weeks, rather than push it further down the road.
I
guess
guess
I
I'd
would
like to
also
see.
like a little bit more time to chew over the numbers. I was not able to be present last week and had issues getting some of the numbers from the mayor. I have looked over them today, but I also would like to do more follow-up. I also would like to make sure that we're looking at things as a total package. I will openly admit that the dollars up front and a little bit of the PTO adjustments is a good start, but I also don't believe that's where it's going to end. I believe there are other things that we need to focus on along with salaries, but there are other things out there. Again, it all costs money, so to the city, it's all a dollar amount, but how do we attract talent? For example, my employer just put in the fact that depending on how long you've been there, for years of service, you call it, on the private side, they introduced a sabbatical. I can put in for 60 days off, paid, to do absolutely nothing work-related and keep my position to show back up. That's on top of my PTO. That's on top of all of my other benefits, something I had never even heard of. Why? Because people were getting burnt out and they wanted a way to retain them and not lose them. So they would rather pay them for 60 days to do nothing so that they come back to the same company. That was huge, and that's all it cost. Now, I certainly understand that probably won't fly here, especially as, out the gate, but those are all those other little options. Time off, benefit packages, retirement packages, paternity leave, not maternity leave, paternity leave for moms and dads. That's huge nowadays, and all those things factor into it on top of simply what my salary is.
You get to a place where the citizens can't afford to live in the town, you give all that stuff away.
That's why we're up here, Ron. We gotta find that sweet spot.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but I do want to emphasize a little bit of urgency. Sergeant Weber will be leaving at the end of the month, and we are going to 8-hour shifts because we have to. It's the only way we can cover a 24-hour schedule. If we lose one more officer, which it is very likely he will see a job offer towards the end of the month, I believe. If we lose that officer, we will not be able to operate a 24/7 department. I just want you to know that.
Mike, also just checking, and I believe I ran the math on this just because of my familiarity with the department. Right now, there are I'd say it's fair, most times we have at least a good amount of overlap with more than one officer on the street.
Correct.
Moving to 8 hours,
We will not.
that
You'll have
completely
one officer-
depletes the
You will
double
have one
coverage.
officer per shift,
Okay.
and if that officer sees an arrest, like an OWI, which often can take a full half or full shift, you will not have coverage.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that, yes, we were not only just moving to 8-hour shifts, we were technically losing some of that overlap of
Correct.
presence.
Correct. Thanks for pointing that out.
So yes, I guess that would be my request to the council and to the mayor, that we do as much as we can. The urgency on it, and I will admit openly, I'm not ready to take action tonight because I'd like to get everything under, but I agree, I don't want to kick it down the road a month. I think in 2 weeks, I'd really like to have something that we're ready to move on, whatever that may be.
I got nothing against giving the whole thing. I have against when you sign a contract, it's usually binding for the duration of the contract. And that's the only reason that I'm protesting it.
And I can absolutely respect that.
Because even me,
But we're
if I
beyond
was,
that,
if I
Ron.
was working, what's your, sure, I'd want more money if I was,
And for the officers that will stay here, like Mike said, they will absolutely
I got
honor that.
nothing against any of the officers, I mean.
The problem is, we're not gonna have them, so we have to do something.
But my basic deal was the contract. I mean, the union, they always say union, then the union don't stand behind the contract.
Okay.
Mayor, I had one thing to ask you for a finale from me on this. Can we go back and revisit the Elk Run police contract? We're experiencing needing to pay more money for better talent, new talent. We didn't know that when we signed the contract for Elk Run. Is that a feasibility study that the council would entertain talking about? It's just kind of what we're facing.
I'd be happy to ask them, but we signed a 3-year agreement with them.
But don't we have a clause in there?
We can do away with the contract with so
We're
many
gonna
days'
do it.
notice.
No, we would just ask them.
I don't think we want to go down that road. I don't think we want to
Okay.
take money away from our
That's doing exactly,
department.
that's doing exactly what I said the union was doing to us. Just up and, well, either, or, I don't know if the union's involved, but we
Okay,
signed a
right.
contract with the union. And we signed a contract with Alpine Heights.
I would be with Councilman Siebel. I don't feel that it would do anything to at least hurt. Because, again, no is still the same spot we're at today. And maybe they are able to find something to help us out.
Yep.
So, yeah, I would say it's at least worth an ask.
Thank you. So is everybody, the graphs you've gotten in the last day or two, is there a, well, you spoke up, Justin, I understand that. These numbers that you're looking at now to the meeting, is it yay, nay, you gotta talk about it more, gotta do a bunch of adjusting? I mean, this is what the mayor put out, and I'm gonna kinda concede, and if that's what she feels, go with it. I have concerns on certain areas, it's not the pay scale, but I wanna know what the rest of you are kinda thinking tonight.
Well, I think Justin's right. I mean, not only we gotta consider the adjustment, but then also the incentivizing to get new people in. I mean, we gotta have a bigger package. I mean, it's not just the numbers on this schedule, it's what else can we do? I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting out of what you're saying.
Yep, that's accurate.
You know, it's, but there again, Chief Dean's telling us we're at our 11th hour here. So what are we gonna do about it?
We're gonna take care of them.
Okay.
We're gonna do what it takes to take care of them.
Yep.
We just gotta come to the number and agree that that's where we're gonna go. Simple.
Yep.
I'm not sure that, like, all of these numbers on this spreadsheet are reflecting what we need to do, so maybe, I can send a message out and see if you can take a look at them. Cause I wanna make sure that it's gonna involve all of the officers, and some of them I'm thinking that there isn't, so maybe we could just look through that again, and just make sure that those figures.
The ones that I sent you?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just a lot of information on there, so maybe something got moved, maybe I'm not reading it right.
Okay. Well, you want to compare apples to apples, and this is what we approved in the budget,
Yeah. I
and
do
this is
both.
what I sent you.
Yeah. I do
So it's
both.
about $27,358 difference.
But that didn't have overtime calculated in it.
It did.
I mean, I can show you later if you want.
Okay. That'd be fine.
Where are you gonna pull that out of then?
Well, like Christie already said, we had reserves left over from last year.
Was there also the ability to use some of the
American Rescue Funds, but,
again, to
yeah.
cover this? Again, we're trying to find a dollar from everywhere,
Right.
so just to get the coverage
Yeah.
in.
We could definitely have the, sewer department, wastewater department pay for some of the lift station, because a lot of those funds were focused on that. We've already kind of pulled back money, well, I can't say we have, because we haven't. But there's a good, we could pull back money from the lining project too. Because we actually did have 100,000 budgeted in wastewater last year for that lining project. Not counting the American Rescue Funds. So you could dedicate some of that money. I mean, it's
eligible for that use.
absolutely. Yep.
Would that money could we still use, like, if we do a sign-on bonus? I don't know how the budget would work, but if we did a sign-on bonus, can we put that like in a different bucket? Would we take it from the American Rescue Funds and put it in a different bucket so that when one does get hired, it comes right out of there? Is that how that?
Yes.
Okay.
How much is in that fund, Mayor? Just roughly.
710,000 total.
Well, how much is allocated away though that we got something coming up? Isn't the
Michigan lift
gonna-
station.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
okay, I just wanna make sure we understand that.
600,000.
Spent, yeah.
We were hoping. for
That wasn't
500.
what I was talking about earlier by cutbacks, just so
Yeah.
you guys know. It's kinda like-
No, but if we can't, yes, we need Evansdale to grow, because that's what offsets, obviously, the additional costs, inflations, and everything comes up. But if we can't maintain what we have no business introducing anything new. So we've got to take care of what's here first, and this is one of those things.
Mhm.
I'm in
Councilman,
agreement.
Councilman Smock, Christie had mentioned some sort of sign-on bonus. She kind of threw out a proposed number. You have any other number that you'd like to throw out or at this time, or?
I am in a love-hate relationship with sign-on bonuses. I truly am. Is it something that everybody seems to do right now to entice that talent and get you on?
Certainly.
Absolutely, and man, it looks
Certainly
good to
the
me.
thing.
But then I look back at it, and my employer did the same. But they also have a referral bonus, so I'm like, okay, I could have found the talent too and referred them. But I've been working here for 20 years. I didn't get no sign-on bonus. I didn't get a stay bonus. So now it's that bittersweet to where I absolutely understand why they're doing it.
Yep.
But at the same time, trying to retain talent
Right.
Yep.
as recruiting it. So I don't have a good number because I'm very much at an impasse with that currently.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I work, my job is not, my company's never it did not give me an inflation increase. They didn't give me a sign-on bonus. They didn't, but, you know, I will contest that it is difficult to get people in the door right now.
Mhm.
So I understand that completely.
And that's just anybody. Imagine
Yeah.
the right kind of people.
Yeah, I know, they're trying.
I guess where we're gonna have to get creative is how do we attract them to come into the police department? We're talking the money, but we need to know,
Yeah.
we can't beat the street. I guess we just keep putting ads out and put a package thing out there, what it is listed up front. See if that draws any interest for the police department. That's really all we can do. I mean, we can say whatever we want, but if they don't come in the door and address it, I mean, we're just banging our heads.
I guess we just try, and then if it doesn't
Try it
work, we
and see,
reevaluate.
come up with something for what we think. I'm not a favor of that either, Councilman Smock, but we have to do something, but I don't know what. It's gonna take us a little more thinking. There was a lot to look at here in the last day and a half.
And that's where I do, again, don't want to kick it down too far, but that's where even I'm at the point of, give me 2 weeks. Let me study late, pull some all-nighters, do the whole college try, but be ready in 2 weeks, because, yeah, we can't kick it again.
Mike, I do appreciate that you're going to 8-hour shifts. I know the shortage is one thing, but I do appreciate that you're doing that.
Public discussion. Mayor Council reports. Motion to adjourn.
So made.
Sure. I'll go second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I didn't say nothing.
I know, you want to spend the night, right?
Well,